Hello there, good morning and welcome to Daytona for the second day of qualifying practice for GTPlanet's 24 Hours of Daytona. Qualifying practice 2 and 3 today. QP2 is now underway for the support race cars. We currently have two Mazda touring cars. Hello there, on good morning and welcome to Daytona. For the second day in just under a quarter of an hour's time, the main event cars will be taken to the track for what we expect to be a very competitive session, as cars will try to qualify for next weekend's 24 Hours of Daytona. I'm AJ, series promoter and race director, and I'm going to be handing you off to your commentators for this session, who are GT Academy finalist Bart, GTPlanet administrator and author of GTpedia, Famine. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
If I sound
viewers.
a little bit stressed, it's because I'm actually out on track at the moment.
Yeah, doing the same dual role you did last time in commentary.
I'll be driving for the Green Hell Heathens this season, and I'm currently putting in some qualifying laps for the Miata support races for the Daytona 24 Hours next weekend. So this is my half-hour qualifying session. One of my teammates will be driving in Q3 to try and qualify for the race also.
And he's also a bronze driver, am I correct?
Yes, I think so. I think that's correct.
Yeah, because only the bronze drivers are allowed to qualify for
well, we
race.
can have silver, gold or platinum drivers also, but they are limited on the amount of time that they can drive in support races. The platinum drivers are only allowed to drive 10 minutes in 2 hours, gold 20 minutes, silver 40 minutes, and as bronze drivers are allowed to drive up to 100 minutes of the 2-hour support races. Although there are stint minimum length, you're not allowed to go more than 65 minutes without visiting the pits. Teams will be 2 to 4 drivers, so you could have 4 silver drivers, each trying to put in half an hour, or 1 bronze and 1 gold, doing 120 minutes between them. But it's likely that most teams will be putting out a pair of bronze drivers, which means that I'm currently 2.1 seconds down on the best lap time set by Chris W265, and not very happy about it.
So how are the track conditions out there?
It's dark and it's cold. Well, as cold as Florida ever gets, anyway.
Yeah, if you can call it cold, there's laying 5 centimeters of snow around here, so I guess Florida's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it's clear and it's dry and it's just a little dark at the moment, which means I'm having to run my my MX-5 with the headlights, which obviously is going to have some dramatic effect on the aerodynamics.
Yeah, but those pop-up headlights look cool.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, manufacturers aren't allowed to get away with them these days for crash regulations, so...
Yeah, that time's all over. So I bet you have to restore an LMX5 to get the same, or, well, these cars are quite reliable, so...
Well, actually, I already have a Mark 1 MX-5. It's my wife's, technically. And I actually bumped into Kazunori. I say bumped into, of course. Kazunori was at GT Academy this year at Silverstone. But I kind of spoke to him in the car park afterwards. And when he saw me get into my Mark 1 MX-5, he came running over to tell me how much he liked them. And I flashed the pop-up headlights at him as I went away, and they popped up, and he gave me a big grin and a happy, smiling wave. So I think Kazunori likes MX-5s. Well, he has to. There's 35 of them in the game. So.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. I bet. Yeah, he likes his contemporary Japanese sports cars.
He does,
obviously. Yeah.
And of course, ours is purple. So.
Yeah, has to be. But does it match the purple on your car right now, or is it a
It
bit
doesn't.
dark?
No. It's the same as the standard VR Limited 95 model, which is called Art Van something, but in the UK it's called Merlot. And like all Mark 1 MX-5s, ours is a special edition. So.
Yeah. The VR special and.
Yeah, ours is the Merlot special edition.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the Netherlands you've got all these anniversary models, 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. The 10th. I'm a bit of an MX-5 geek, and the 10th anniversary is my favourite.
That's the NB, right?
Yeah, it's a Mark II,
Yeah.
just before the facelift, and it's a lovely blue colour with chromed wheels and a 6-speed gearbox, and a mix of I think it's blue suede and grey leather interior. Very nice. Wooden Nardo steering wheel.
Yeah, sounds
and they
good.
all came with a watch and a model car and a certificate. It's very hard to find one that's still got all of the little trinkets left.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, I'm doing my usual trick of not being especially fast, but being very, very consistent. My best so far is a 206.1, and every single one of my last 6 laps has been a 206. So
that's good pace, but yeah, currently you're the only one on track. But
I'm about to be joined by a GT 500 HSV by the looks of it.
He still has to wait a couple of minutes though. You still have a little less than 6 minutes left.
He is rolling down the pit lane at the moment, so.
Oh yeah, he'll be stopped by AJ.
I have to say the pit lane here, the pit lane exit is not especially intuitive, and I've been guilty of missing it slightly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to advise that's one for all drivers who are doing the race this weekend to have a quick recce of it. It's a little bit awkward.
It's a bit
AI,
disorientating with the camera change when you get out of the pits.
Yeah, the AI will just spit you out into the middle of turn 1, but the actual pit lane does carry on right through that turn and separates you from the high-speed traffic by blue barriers. I've just gone through split 4 at 139 again.
So that will be another 206 then?
It certainly does look like it. Well, I think I've found my pace. I just need to work out where it is that I'm going wrong. It looks like, because these cars will be downtuned with the power limiter, it looks like doing an oil change before you do that might be slightly advantageous due to the slightly increased torque and performance points that it gives you. I haven't done an oil change on this car before doing that, so I might have to investigate how much difference that makes later. I doubt it makes 2 seconds a lap difference. I think Chris is just better than me.
Maximum half second, maybe a few tenths.
That said, there are a lot of straight lines, well, relatively straight lines on this track, so
Yeah.
I suspect Chris is just faster than I am.
As Chris has rejoined the track, so we'll go look at him for a few laps.
I think I'm switching down to second too often.
He's in the yellow-colored Mazda. He's of Team Wheel Racing Limited. They are in the number 86 Lotus Elise 111R in GT Cup, so not participating in the feature race, the Daytona 24 hours, but still eligible to kick it up in the sport race. And yeah, looks like we'll have a full race for the sport race, near to full race at least. it's looking like we'll get 12 drivers. One of which will be your team and my team, Valerion Racing. We've got GTP Dutchy, also commentator for the GTP Endurance Series. He will be our bronze driver, and joining him will be Skyline, our silver driver.
So I've raced against very, very many Dutch drivers in GT5 and in GT4 as well, and I refuse to believe that any of you are bronze.
Well, to be honest, Kevin's already far along with this development, but he only started driving with a wheel in this March, last year in March. So, yeah.
Well, I bought a wheel originally. I bought a Logitech Driving Force Pro when GT4 Prologue came out, and it was only really GT6 that I started driving with the wheel properly. So
yeah, I've started with the same wheel, with the same game. So also the DF Pro at GT4 Prologue. But, yeah, then I upgraded to a G25 for Gran Turismo 5 Prologue.
yeah, I think I did more or less the same thing actually.
Oh, as we see a crash from Chris in turn 1, hitting the grass and getting some damage in the wall there. So that looks like the qualifying session is over with only less than a minute to go. Looks like he's struggling to keep the car straight now, understandably with so many wheel damage.
I did have a big moment coming through the chicane on my previous lap, but I managed to rescue it before I stuck it into the wall. I took too much of the right-hand curb on entry to the second bit of the chicane. And, yeah, that was a bit of a clencher. It looks like I'm just going to just about get this lap in, and then have to return to the pits, I think.
Yeah, so if you've just joined us, welcome to Qualifying Practice 2 for the Daytona 24 Hours in the GTPlanet Endurance Series. Currently we're still watching the support race cars qualify in the first half hour of this session, and in the final 90 minutes of this session we'll have the other cars joining: the LMP2 class, the GT500 class, and the GT3s.
Yep, Chris has activated limp home mode, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to affect anybody.
Yeah, seems not. He's still far ahead of you.
Well, even so, I'm returning to the pits anyway, so...
Yeah. Correct.
There's a couple of corners on this lap in this car that fall between second and third gear. You could really do with a second and a half gear. Crikey, those GT500 cars don't mess around, do they?
Nope.
I'm not entirely sure I'm going to make it to the pits before he catches me.
Well, it's also time for me to join the track, so yeah.
Heavens.
Yeah, so that's it for me in terms of commentating. Yeah, have fun watching, and I'll leave you in the capable hands of Famine and AJ.
Oof. I still need to get back to the pits before I get smashed into oblivion by a GT500 car.
You're about to make it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you
thankfully. It has to be said, the MX-5 is very, very kind on fuel and tyres.
Yeah, that's the advantage of that car. But everybody being in the same car, it's the same for everyone, so level playing field.
I was worried my AI driver was going to pit right in front of you then. That wouldn't have gone too well. Right, so that's my sessions completed with a 206.1 best, 2.1 seconds down. But hey. Okay, I'm now just recovering from my my driving session of my own. I'm really hoping that my television is not playing through my microphone here, but we currently have 6 cars on track. 3 of them are the GT500s, and we also have the Pescarolo Courage and the Audi R8, driven by my co-commentator there. And we do have a couple of damaged cars out there already. The Lexus is carrying front right damage, and the Pescarolo is carrying rear right damage. Well, it looks like the Nissan GTR has hit something very heavily, and they're carrying powertrain and front right damage, which I suppose shows at least that during qualifying, drivers are still pushing all out. I suppose it's a sprint rather than an endurance. Just looking at the times put down so far, the fastest seems to be from that GT3 class Nissan GTR, 1:47.0. I imagine it's only a matter of time until that Pescarolo catches up. He's setting purple sectors throughout. It looks like the Pescarolo has managed to pick up more damage. He's got rear right damage now as well. And the Zanavi GT500 seems to have had a massive off, and he's carrying damage everywhere. That's currently being driven by Stiggs TC, who's giving past him a good flash of the headlights as he goes around the top of the banking there. And we're actually on board with Passam for the live stream at the moment. So at the moment we've got 6 cars out on track. It looks like 2 from the GT3 class, 3 from the GT500, and one of the cars is the LMP2 Pescarolo Courage. And 2 of the GT500s have broken under the 140s. We've now got the Lexus in 138.7, and the Zanavi Nismo is doing 139.5. Yes, the Lexus is being driven by EOL, the Portuguese driver, with Stig's TC just behind him. We have the Indian driver Santu. He's just also broken with the 140s with a 139.8. Given the amount of smoke coming out the back of that HSV as he's going around the corners, I think he could go a great deal quicker. And a little queue developing. Just coming through the final sector now, we have Passam slightly ahead of Stig's TC. Although, from my connection, it looks like Stiggs is having a bit of a moment coming around the banking, and yes, he's taken into the pit lane. That was a massive, massive slide for him there. There's still just the 3 drivers under the 1 minute 40s. EOL is still setting the pace with a 138.6, and then we have Stig's TC on 139.5 and Santu 929 on 139.8. And WTF Man has also joined them with a 139.6. He's stuck himself 3rd. Although I think we've probably got more to see from that Pescarolo yet. Well, it looks like Passam is driving the only undamaged car around at the moment, as you would expect from a GTPlanet staff member. Keeping it within the white lines at all times. Of course I said that, now I've just jinxed him. But he's just crossed the line. He's still setting a best of 145.7. Which makes me glad that the GT3 cars are not going to be running with the Miatas at the same time this weekend, because I was going through the last sector at 139. There's a bit of a slide coming through turn 1 there for Stig's TC. He's having a little bit of trouble gathering it up, but seems to all be there. We seem to have an Australian battle on the track here, as Bo Alba has just moved out of the way in his GT3 Nismo to make way for Stig's TC. And car number 22 though, the has just had to return to the pits. He has ABS on, which is not allowed in his class. Unfortunately, he's chosen to teleport himself back into the pit lane, which is also not allowed. As a quick reminder, drivers must drive all the way around the track and back into the pit lane. As AJ strives for a little bit of realism. The pit lane is a little bit awkward here. The exit in the game, the exit will spit you straight into the middle of turn 1 as faster drivers coming down through it. So drivers will have to manually keep themselves to the left-hand side where there's a narrow pit exit that spits them ahead out on the track just before the sharp second turn. The driver's going to be crashing enough in turn 1 without having to be avoiding someone else as it is. We still just have the four drivers, who are under, 4 drivers, correction, who are under 140. Still EOL with a 138.0 now. All the other 139s are unchanged. There's San 299 on 139.2, Sticks TC on 139.5, and WTF Man on 139.6. It's probably worth mentioning the teams at this point. EOL, who's currently the pace setter, is driving for the ORA racing team. WTF Man, who's currently running with the 4th best time of all, he'll be driving for Swift Autosport. Stiggs TC is part of SSR Motorsports. They'll be driving the Nissan GTR GT500 this season. Passam is, of course, from Avalarion. For those of you unaware, an Avalarion is an heraldic eagle. We also have San 299, who's racing for Turismo Racing in the Honda HSV 010. And I have missed off Bo Albert, I think. Yes, he's one of my teammates at the Green Hell Heathens in the number 45 Nissan GTR Nismo GT3. It's actually labelled as number 123 in the game. But for the purposes of this series, it will be number 45. So we still have just 6 cars on track at the moment. The MX-5 qualifying was done earlier in the session, between 6 and 6:30 track time. There were just the 2 drivers out. Unfortunately, I was second of those 2 drivers with a 206.1. Just behind Chris W265 for Veal Racing Limited, who will be competing against us this season in the GT Cup in the Elise, and he was running a 204 flat. Of course, if you have any questions for us, you can comment in the live stream, which you can find on GTPlanet's YouTube channel. And we seem to have a little bit more bunching up now, with my teammate by Albert being passed by the WTF man in that massively fast Pescarolo. I'm surprised not to see that slightly higher up the timesheets at the moment. You also will see on your screens Passam and Santu99 are pretty close to each other. At the moment, Passam is as well as driving and commentating before and after his stint, he's also in charge of the stream. So you'll be seeing an awful lot of that Audi GT3. Of course, as a GT Academy finalist, you should find it beautifully driven also. Oh, and he has a bit of a smoke screen to deal with there, as Santu makes a colossal error in the chicane. And more of a smoke screen from the GT500 Nissan Aerostix TC. WTF man had a bit of a wobble on there coming onto the banking, but it's all been gathered up nicely now. EOL in that Lexus is now set at an excellent 1:37.9 there. Unfortunately, I wasn't around for qualifying one, so I'm not entirely sure if that's the best time we've seen so far or not. Pulling down the times from yesterday, that's the third fastest time we've seen all weekend. We're back on board with Passam. He seems to have picked up a little bit of front right damage there from an incident that I haven't seen because I was busy checking yesterday's times. As I'm looking at the live stream, that seems to be something that my game has invented. I have a question: who will be the car to beat in LMP2? Unfortunately, I drive cars that are far too slow to qualify for LMP2, so I couldn't really say. Looking at the entry list for the year, we have 5 teams, all of whom are American, and 2 will be driving the Delta Ring, and 3 will be driving the Pescarolos. I suspect it'll be one of the Pescarolos. They're pretty devastating cars. That said, one of the Delta Wing teams is carrying, or two of the Delta Wing teams are carrying gold drivers. But ABC Racing does have TNR Pfeffer on board, who is a platinum driver. He did quite well when we were watching him last season at the Spa 24, so I would suspect that the ABC Racing and the Courage C60 will probably be the team to beat, but don't put any money on it. I think we've just seen a collision from Bo Albert, missing turn 1 there, but he's recovered the car safely to track. He's not in anyone's way. He is carrying a reasonable amount of damage there, so he might want to recover himself to the pits. As we see Passam coming into the pits to end his half-hour stint. There's also a question, do we use GT6 in-game normal servers? It's slightly more complicated than that, due to the way that the GT6 and in fact an awful lot of console games, in fact pretty much all console games, use peer-to-peer. And that means that all of the PlayStations connected are the servers. The actual game servers are only used for creation of the lobby and to keep it going, and yes, we do use that. There is nothing else to use. After that, it's just dependent on everyone's individual connection speeds. That might mean that you will see a car lagging on the stream 1 minute and not the next as a different driver turns in who happens to be geographically closer. It's the least expensive system to use, but it's entirely dependent on everyone's connection speed. Unfortunately, it's not ideal. Very, very few games, I can't even think of one off the top of my head, uses a dedicated server for consoles. But yes, it's just the normal GT6 lobby system. For this, we're using the Community Club feature that was introduced a couple of updates ago. It makes it marginally easier to control, although you'd have to speak to AJ when he comes back on later, driving standards, eligible drivers, and so on and so forth. It's very, very easy with community clubs to set up a specific type of lobby and then simply paste it every time you want a new event, which is very, very helpful when you're running a 12-race endurance series season. Yes, there's a follow-up to that question on YouTube. There is a fixed host, which is AJ. If the connection to his PlayStation goes down, I think I'm right in saying this is not. It wouldn't migrate, so it would drop everything out. But fortunately, his connection seems to be quite stable. But yes, the host is not necessarily the same thing as the server. It's a peculiar way of doing things, and it's something that people don't often understand, is that the servers in Gran Turismo are the PlayStations themselves. In fact, over in the UK here, we have LAN parties, which you maybe read about on GTPlanet from time to time, which we call UK GTP. And what we do is we will connect all the PlayStations together in the same place through a switch, but you have to still have external PlayStation Network connections for all of the consoles. In fact, this doesn't require that much bandwidth. We worked out it requires about 120k an hour for each PlayStation that's connected, just to maintain its PSN connection and its connection to the lobby that has been created. But after that, all the network traffic, all the racing is done through the Switch. And that means that we can have almost lag-free races. Occasionally you do get a bit of lag if something extraordinary happens, like a barrel roll or a massive crash somewhere the console isn't expecting it. But we take advantage of the peer-to-peer nature of the game by simply connecting all of the consoles to the Switch. The internet connection is still, unfortunately, required, so you can't have a true LAN like we used to do in GT4. But the system works very, very well. Fallen Saints Inc. points out that we can't run in private because there are more drivers in the series and be allowed on a PSN friends list. That's completely correct. This is another reason why the community club is so useful. GTPlanet's community club has over 3,500 members now. And in fact, it was the very first community club created with the lowest ID, which is 15002. We think the other two 160s and 150s were both used for testing purposes, and ours is the first actually created one. But yes, PSN friends list will max out at 100 drivers, 100 friends, and we have something like 200 drivers in the series. AJ obviously is more familiar with the specific numbers, since he has to organise all of this. So there would be no way to do this entirely in a private lobby, so we have to set up the community clubs like this, and it allows for way more driver numbers than we could possibly manage in private, and also because you can set the community groups to open public lobbies or community only. Then you can effectively race in private without having to fill up your friends list with Gran Turismo players. Apparently AJ is relatively nearby at the moment, so we might be able to hear from him.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm still kind of winding down a little bit from my MX-5 stint.
Yes, that was earlier on in the first block while we had the support race qualifying going on. We've had a fair number of cars on track for QP2. It's going to get busy in QP3 and 4, as that seems to be the most popular booking times. However, with less traffic, you maybe expect the faster times to be set in these first two sessions, perhaps.
I was expecting the Pescarolo to be much higher than it is at the moment. The fastest times in Q1 were all LMP2s, but two of the C60s and one Delta Wing.
They were, but maybe that's a reflection on the drivers in the GT500s more than the speed of the P2s. I think we're expecting GT500s to be a bit quicker on track, but a bit longer in the pits. I think that's the general expectation. Just to run you through the times, quickest is EOL 1:37.982, with Stig's TC behind him by just under a tenth. Then WTF Man 1.6 behind. Then Santu, who had his earlier times deleted due to running ABS, he's 2.5 seconds back. And then Paxson fostered the GT3s this morning, 7.4 back, and just over a second behind him is Bo Albert 6. So I'll hand you back to Famine, and I think Dart's still driving at the moment, and we're going to be on board with him on the broadcast until he gets out of the car. So.
Well, it's good to watch a GT Academy finalist, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Somebody who can keep it between the lines. I
think some of his competitors in GT3 were wondering just how he was going so quickly. So this is an insight for them to follow him around the laps and see where they can make up a little bit of time. because as I'm sure you've been telling our viewers, not everyone will qualify for the 24 Hours of Daytona next weekend. We will lose 2 cars from each class. So qualifying is very important, critical in fact. And of course, it's the fastest 2 drivers' times will count towards that grid time. So it's not a case of just putting out your hair and hoping he puts in a quick time. It's a real team effort.
Am I right in saying all of the MX-5 drivers will qualify though?
They will. We will have 12 cars, I think, for that race, which will be a 2-hour race on the morning of the 24 hours. Looking at the timetable, I believe the race starts at 9 AM with the main event starting at 2 o'clock on Saturday the 31st. So I'm going to head back up to race control now, where the stewards have been doing a great job of making sure everyone's staying within the regulations. So thank you for having me on the broadcast, and as you were.
Okay. Just to head back to the YouTube questions, somebody's asked if each driver's in his own rig or do they share the same wheel. It depends on what type of team it is. There are 2 different types, network and local. Network is by far the most common, and it means that the drivers are not geographically in the same location. So they will, the first driver will drive his run, then he will pit, he will leave the lobby, his teammate will join the lobby, and then he will continue and do his run that way. Local drivers will all be in the same rig. There aren't actually all that many local teams. Inferno Racing, who are running the Delta Wing, they are a local team. And I think one of the GT300 teams is as well. I'll just have to call up the driver roster for that because I'm not totally familiar. No, it looks like just that Delta Wing team. Just Inferno Racing is local, everyone else is a network. So they will be hopping in and out of the same rig. And also a minor correction, which Fallen Saints Inc. pointed out. Yeah, the number I gave earlier was the GTPlanet official club, not the GTP Endurance Series official club. All members who will be doing endurance racing with us this season will have to be a member of that club. It looks like there's currently 133 members of that club, so I think we've got a couple more drivers need to add themselves just yet. But yes, the GTPlanet main one, which is just the group for GTPlanet, where we will run events every week. That's much smaller than this, but based on that, on our weekly race series, that has 3,831 members at present. So it's one of the oldest and one of the largest as well. And yes, there won't be any GT300 cars, nor the GT Cup cars for this event. It's just LMP2, GT500 and GT3. Rorschach there pointing out that 1:37.6 is too quick. It's a very, very fast time. I have, just looking at yesterday's results, it would still only put him third, so that the same place that he was before. Behind ABC Racing's Carrera C60, driven by D. Griffin, who still has the fastest time of the week. In fact, Stig's TC has just pipped EOL with a 1:37.5, which is the second fastest time we've seen all week so far. There are 2 more qualifying sessions yet to come. Now, the fastest time we saw yesterday in the GT500s was Russian Roulette's number 27, driven by AJHG1000, one of GTPlanet's Mexican members, with a 1:39.0. So these 1:37s are pretty stellar times. And Team Wise Racing, for whom EOL drives, is entirely made of bronze members, so I think we should be seeing EOL's ranking going up at some point during this season, because that's a pretty good time. All new members to the series who didn't race last season are classified as bronze to start with. Those rankings are subject to quite a great deal of change as the season progresses. The Daytona 24 next weekend will be just our first of the season, so we had a request for an update on Swift Motorsport. WTF man is still driving the C60 round. He's done the best of 1 minute 39.2. He's currently driving on a red lap, so he's a little off somewhere. And he's just had a terrible crash. He's completely lost it coming around the first corner and stuck himself into the end of the pit wall. That's very, very nasty. I think he's going to have to recover to the pits for that one. He won't be beating 1:39.2 on this lap. C60's looking like a bit of a handful, but with the amount of front end damage he must have accumulated in that crash, I'm not surprised. Here we're now running with 7 cars on track. And we have 4 drivers who are broken under the 140 mark. We have two who've broken under the 138, Sticks TC and EOL, both in GT500s. It looks like we have a very Australia heavy lobby at the moment, with 4 of the drivers bearing an Australian flag. I have no idea what time it is in Australia, but those guys are up either very late or very, very early. Still, these will be 24-hour races, so some people are not going to be having an awful lot of sleep. It's rather looking like everyone has found their rhythm at the moment, with lap times mainly being showing white sector times, which are just, if you're familiar with Gran Turismo's live timing, a green sector time is your personal best, a purple is a best of all, and white is just any other sector time. It's more or less the same as you'll see during live timing for Formula 1. Everyone's currently running white sector times at the moment. The exception to that is Greasy, who has set his personal best lap last lap. It looks like there was a building calamity in the last corner before the banking. And we have Greasy07 and Santu929 who are both driving in what looks like limp home mode here at 37 miles an hour or 60k. Those two cars have sustained a lot of damage. Santa is showing all four corners and the powertrain. And the safety car has been deployed. So you will get to see a safety car. For those of you who are not familiar, the safety car is driven by GTAJ. It's the new BMW M4 Performance with the light bar. It's limited to 60 Ks. Drivers will be required to follow it. There's no passing until the safety car peels off into the pits at the end of its run, and even then there's no passing until the start-finish line, so you may see the leader of the train of cars behind the pace car doing some unusual manoeuvres. This is to allow the two heavily damaged cars for Greasy and Santu to make their way back to the pits. They're currently going around the final turn of the banking very, very slowly. You will see passing the camera car catching up with them very, very soon. And in fact, he's joining them in the pits. Then with only a quarter of a tank of fuel left, you can hardly blame him. Okay, we now have 4 cars in the pits, with just the 3 lined up behind the safety car. Bo Albert, WTF Man and Sticks TC. And the safety car driver has alerted everyone that he'll be pulling in at the end of this lap. So he's just approaching the banking in sector 3 at the moment. Which must feel like an eternity to these GT500s stuck behind him. Bambi asks if I'm just a GT Cup driver or will I be in GT3 this year. I'm just a GT Cup driver. I find the slower cars to be more fun in Gran Turismo than the faster ones. Although, having participated in that test session at Willow Springs, I'm beginning to regret my decision, because having to look behind me in my rearview mirror for the much, much faster cars is a little on the stressful side. Luckily, there won't be any LMP ones in any of the races that I'm partaking in, so I won't be assaulted by any more Audi R18s. Apparently, it's 11:12 p.m. in Australia at the moment, according to Rorschach. So that'll be one of the many, many time zones that make up Australia. Is it 4 or is it 3? But yeah, late night on Saturday for the Australians here. As an indicator of just how slow 60 k's is, the M4 safety car is just coming through the chicane on the back straight, and all but one of the cars that has pitted has now caught up with the train. So the restart should be exciting if nothing else. Remember that vehicles are not allowed to pass until both the pace car has pitted and until they've reached the start-finish line. It's actually a real shame that in Gran Turismo you can't, as you did in GT4, I think, use the horn to turn off the pace car's lights. It would be useful as an indicator that the pace car is coming into the pits, but it's not something that we have available to us. So AJ has to let the drivers know by Gran Turismo's in-lobby communication system by typing the fact that the safety car is coming in. And the safety car now peeling off to the left. And Bo Albert takes up the job of being the safety car temporarily. Remember they and the safety car is back out again. I'm not sure what's happened there, but the safety car is still out. Okay, if anybody's got any idea what just happened there to make the safety car still be out, please let me know. Yes, Bambi, I know the R18 was you, Bambi. I know everyone on GTPlanet. San2929 has popped up a message to say that he's in limp home mode. So perhaps there's been an incident with him behind the safety car that I haven't seen. Drivers should be sticking to the 60k limit and watching out for cars ahead of them rather than just blithely following in a train. You can cause damage even at 60k, so if drivers aren't aware. Let's see, the safety car looks like it's running laps in the order of 3.5 minutes at the moment, which is slightly more than double the normal lap time, so there'll be some frustrated drivers there. What's the time difference between the different classes, says Steve Skyline Kirk? That's a good question. The GT500s and the LMP2s seem to be mixing it up together at the moment. They're all running lap times kind of between the 140s and the 137s, so there's a kind of a 3-second gap, and they're in each other's space. The GT3s, they're all in the mid 140s. So the fastest time we saw yesterday was TNR Pfeffer at 144.875. Passam has beaten that, but only by a couple of hundredths today. And they're all kind of in the 144 to 146, 147 range for the majority of their laps. The only other class we'll have this weekend won't be running in the main feature race, and that'll be the Mazda MX-5s. They're all running 2 minutes and change. So between, I think 2:04.1 was the fastest I had yesterday. The slowest of the three we had yesterday was 2:07. I'm participating in that class myself. I did a 2:06.1 earlier today. But they won't be mixing it. They won't be on the track at the same time as the main cars. The speed differential would be ludicrous. Okay, AJ has peeled off and he will be heading down the pit lane again. Bo Albert now assumes the mantle of being the pace car. There was no overtaking before the start-finish line, but he has put the hammer down so he can get ahead. And, well... the restart doesn't look to have been all that successful, as Santu929 has attempted a ridiculous pass around the outside of turn 1 on the GT3 Nismo GTR and put himself into the grass as a result. That's caused a lot of damage to Bo Albert's car. He's now having to crawl his way around turn 1 to turn 3 for the 3rd successive lap. I have no idea what Santi was doing there. Apart from flashing his lights a lot and smashing into the barriers. Well, Satch asks, how do I become a good commentator? I have no idea. I'll let you know when I become one myself. For good commentators, Tom Brooks is your man. He will be joining us. I think he's not available this weekend, but he'll be joining us for race 2. And Santu crashes in the pit lane entry as well. Either he's not having an awful lot of fun in that car, or he's stayed up too long. It's some relatively poor driving there. Yes, unfortunately, Rorschach, I'm a bit of a novice at this the commentary like myself. I think the first time I ever did any commentary of any kind on any race was, in fact, the Spa 24 Hours last year for the Endurance Series. As I'm acutely aware that I might leave huge gaps, which you're not supposed to do, and I might be boring. But like that, yeah, I just left a huge gap there. Yeah, it's not something that's particularly easy to do, especially without swearing. Particularly if you're driving as well. I'm driving GT Cup this year, and I'll also be doing the Mazda Sport races. And if occasionally I will commentate while I'm driving. And the temptation to let out a very large expletive if someone does something a bit daft in front of me, well, we'll probably find that will happen once or twice this season, and our race director will cut me off, quite rightly. Yeah, the cars seem to be spaced out a bit better now. Although Santu and Bo Albert are still together, and I don't know if that's Bo Albert or Bo Albert, but we'll go with Albert for now. But yeah, Santu and Bo Albert together don't seem to have had a particularly good time when they're occupying roughly the same bit of track together. Rorschach asks if it's Santu's mission to crash into every wall. I think it's... in the last couple of laps he's certainly checked an awful lot off his wall bingo card, and he's been through quite a few bits of gravel and grass as well. But I suppose they do say to use all the track. if we take a look back at the times, some of the drivers are starting to improve their times again. Stig TC has gone purple, which isn't because he's holding his breath, but because he set the fastest sector times and the fastest lap overall now at 137.3. EOL is just behind him with a 137.4, although he's running pretty consistently. His last lap was a 137.5, and he's just about equalled Stig TC's purple sector in sector 3 there. A new driver sneaked onto the track without me noticing him. Nico 4711. He's in the Pescarolo C60. He's currently setting green sector times, but he's only on his 3rd lap so far. He's one of the Swift Autosport cars, so he's replaced WTF Man. His best time so far is a 1:42, so there's a little room for improvement. He should be in the 1:30s with that Pescarolo before long. In the live stream, we're still on board with Passam. He's doing a nice low fuel run at the moment. It's a little bit of a wibble going through the chicane there, and now we've picked up a little bit of rear right damage. Yeah, there's too much grass on the outside of the chicane there, so he returns to the pits to take on some much needed fuel. Nico's improved to a 141.9. I think there's still some room for him there to get into the 130s. And EOL has just set the fastest lap of all now, 137.15. And that's only a few thousandths behind the best time that we've seen all weekend from ABC Racing's Courage C60. So it looks like the GT500s and the LMP2s are going to be mixing it up for lap times this week. Although how they will fare on the longer runs, I don't know. I think it's relatively likely that the lightweight LMPs will preserve fuel and tyres slightly better than the relatively heavy GT500s. But on raw pace, they're pretty much inseparable at the moment. We have a large queue going on in the pits at the moment, and we have a crash in turn 1 from and I can't believe I'm about to say this out loud, Pubes16 in the Courage C60, who's had a crash in the pit lane. But, that's all clear now. Just again, the pit lane exit on this circuit is not as obvious as it ought to be. If you let the game pull you out onto the track, it will spit you out into turn 1, which with the heavy braking, the high speed and the banking is a crash magnet on this circuit. Now if you get cars being fed out of the pit lane right into the front of your collisions, it only makes matters worse. So there is an actual pit lane which goes around to the left. It's very narrow, but it keeps you separated from the main flow of traffic by very large and obvious blue crash barriers until just before turn 2. But it's a little bit confusing. In fact, I messed it up earlier in the Mazda as well myself. There's something I'm going to have to go away and practice offline rather than wait until the event and cause collisions. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the pronunciation of the current driver who's in the C60, but it's a PlayStation Network acceptable name, so we'll leave it at that. He's currently setting representative sector times in that C60 with Nico 4711 being the only other LMP2 out there at the moment. I think I'm right in saying that. No, Niovra is out there in the Delta Wing. I've not actually seen a Delta Wing doing a lap here at Daytona yet, but I'm told that they're very, very funny in turn 1. Well, not for the drivers, though. Nope, Nico 4711 has a little tiny off in turn 1, but stays offline to let the Delta Wing through. Good driving standards there. It's the black Delta Wing Nissan, the one that famously ran at Le Mans in 2012. I think it was 2012. I should know, I was there. We were right by where it crashed when Kazuki Nakajima sideswiped it into the barriers. So the Delta Wing can be very, very tricky to drive, as we saw from the silver Mazda-powered Delta Wing in the Willow Springs test, which seemed to spend more time off the outside of the circuit than it spent on it. But Niova is driving this very, very well. It's very tidy. It does require unusual driving technique. The car we saw at Willow Springs kept the front tyres orange the entire time, regardless of whether it was in a straight line or go around corners. Even on the clean laps it actually eventually managed. Niovra has gone straight in with a 139.1, so straight under the 140s. That's an excellent showing. The 2 Delta Wings yesterday, the SSR Delta Wing driven by TNR Philo also did a 139.1, but the fastest was the Mazda powered one of Inferno Racing. Future F1 did a 137.6. So at the moment of the cars we have on track, Niovra's Delta Wing is the fastest of all with a 139.1. He's the only driver under 140, but we have seen several 137s so far today from the GT500s who've been in, set their lap time and been out again. And fastest of all I think was a 137.150 by the Portuguese driver EOL in the Lexus SC430, which is the second fastest time we've seen so far this weekend. Ruku has asked a question about fuel draining, and he said he thought he couldn't do it in GT6. In the majority of the career mode of GT6, you can't. In fact, fuel and tyres don't wear at all. In the super class races, the supposed endurance races that 10, 15 laps or 24 minutes, fuel and tyres do go down at an alarming rate. But in online you can set it to however you wish. You actually have many options. You're allowed to set it to normal or really, really fast if you want tyre wear to come into play on a very short race. So yes, fuel and tyres will be used up during this these 24-hour races and all of our endurance races. So you'll see lots of tactics coming into play regarding pit stops. There is a maximum 65-minute stint before drivers must head into the pits, so if you're extremely kind on fuel and tyres, you might find that you're having to pit because of the regulations rather than because your car needs it. That's far more likely in the lower classes, the GT Cup and the support races we'll see with the Mazdas. Now there's questions over the Delta Wing's use of track limits. He's been asked to return to the pits by the stewards. I'm not sure whether he missed that message or it was simply too late for him to head into the pit lane safely. So while Passam's doing his low fuel runs again, I'm going to keep my eye on the Delta Wing. Now he has had an off at turn 2. He's been asked to flash his lights to copy, and indeed he has just flashed his lights. So we'll see him heading into the pits this time. He's had his fastest times deleted by the stewards due to exceeding track limits. Yes, we see a petrol and a gasoline debate going on in the comments on YouTube. I should be a diplomatic chemist and point out that what we put in our cars is the gasoline fraction of petroleum, so both are correct. But petrol is more correct. However, is heading into the pits to reset his car so that his times are removed. This will allow him to set a new series of lap times. That HSV does not look particularly nice to drive. We saw Santu all over the place earlier, and I've just seen Scotty 8646 crash in the pit entry. And again, all four corners of this car are glowing, so he's been visiting various bits of track furniture. Here we have a new driver, TWR Seb 72. He's driving the Lexus SC430, which is currently holding the fastest time so far under the hands of the Portuguese driver EOL. And Neover's Delta Wing is back out on track. Ruku asks if we get a variety of camera angles here. The car that we're currently on board with, that's actually the car of the member of staff who's in charge of the live stream. So we're going to be on board with him for a while. He's good to watch, so, you know, he's a GT Academy finalist, so keep your eyes out. But once he's back in the pits after he's done his qualifying stint, we will see some more camera angles. Obviously he's not able to switch between cars while he's driving one. Okay, again, drivers all seem to have settled into a rhythm. There's a couple of green sectors out there, but mainly whites, which are just not your best lap time, not your best sector time, but just any other sector time will be displayed as a white. We currently have one of the C60s. Driven by the Australian with the unpronounceable name. He's just done a 139.3, so that's pretty much ballpark range for where the Courage and Delta Wing and also the GT500s really should be. He's the second fastest car on track at the moment behind TWR Seb 72 in the Lexus SC430. Look, they're a couple of seconds down on the best times we've seen so far this session. Hassam has just set a new personal best of 1:44.4, and that is by 4/10 now the best time we've seen in GT3 this weekend. There are still a couple of qualifying sessions left, but that's an excellent lap time for the class. So it's just over 100 minutes gone of this qualifying session so far, and we currently have 7 vehicles on track. I think we've seen 14 drivers so far, not including the 2 MX-5s who had the first half hour of the session to themselves. Times are broadly representative of yesterday's session as well. If you weren't here for that, and I wasn't, they were pretty much 1:37s with the best times for the LMP2s, 1:39s with the best times for the GT500s. We had a lone 1:44, but mainly 1:45s for GT3. And we're seeing pretty much the same thing again today. The GT500 going slightly quicker. We have a couple of cars in the 1:37s now. But we should see a difference on the longer runs for the 24-hour race when it comes to tyre and fuel use. As a quick reminder, the Delta Wing times were were deleted earlier for exceeding track limits at turn 3. It's a very common place to exceed the track limits. It's a very hard 180-degree right-hander. And as you accelerate off the apex, there is an access road to the left and a large bit of yellow curb, which your car will naturally drift over towards. And there is a white line there which forms a track boundary. And you'll see many drivers getting pretty close to that white line. As long as you don't step all 4 wheels off it, you should be good to go. But it's a commonplace on this circuit for drivers to exceed the track limit, so it's one that stewards will be looking at very closely during the qualifying and race. In fact, we've also had a warning for one of the other vehicles for exceeding track limits in the same place. We've just seen an excellent 138.5 from that Delta Wing, catching up on the back of the GT500 Lexus. And both of them go off at turn 1 in sympathy, but just a low-grade understeer moment from both of them there. Both have recovered to the track without any incident. I can hear Passam there in the background, presumably fresh from his long runs. We've just seen some purple sector times coming out from the LMP2 cars, both in Sector 3 and Sector 5. Okay, so hello.
I'm back from my stint.
Hello. Yeah, it looks like you set the fastest time we've seen in GT3 this weekend so far by about 4/10. Very late on in your session, actually.
Yeah, I had a 0.4 earlier in the session, and I just in my last flying lap I just made a little bit of an improvement. But yeah, really happy with that.
Well, the sun's starting to rise over the track now, so drivers should at least be able to see some more of the apexes than they could before.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite difficult in the MX-5 to see some of the turn-in points, especially through that chicane on the back straight.
Yeah, the chicane was difficult, but yeah, also turn 4, that little kink in the infield, it was just so dark there.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Even though that's not a corner where you lose as much time if you get it wrong.
Oh, it depends how wrong you get it.
Yeah, okay. If you go off, and yeah. So yeah, looking at the number 10 Delta Wing here, the Nissan. Did they get a black flag, or what happened to them?
Yeah, exceeding track limits at turn 3.
Yeah,
at
right.
that access road from the left.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, he's keeping it between the lines now.
Yeah, I always lived
Mostly.
when I got an advantage from it.
So we have I think 10 minutes remaining in this qualifying now. It's just a 2-hour session.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just gave over the wheel to Friday, the Audi. doing a few laps before the end here.
Yeah.
Looks like he's getting a lap by Niofra.
Yep.
Gets well out of the way. Yeah, it was tricky with the traffic, although I didn't have much because of the safety car. But yeah, that was definitely a good advantage in having a clear track. Although I had one incident where I had a little bit of contact with Santu in turn 5, which I thought he was a bit aggressive. But yeah.
Well, he's currently on the YouTube channel right now. It's Santosh Jamalamadaka, apparently.
Yeah, I was anticipating him being faster there and overtaking, and I left a car width and a half at the apex, but he drifted wide a bit.
Well, we did see a couple of incidents for Santu. The HSV looked a bit tricky to control. So there seemed to be a couple of moments he had with Bo Albert after the safety car went in. He managed to take them both off at turn 1, and then both of them had to limp back to the pits. Which,
unfortunately, yeah. I was wondering what that second safety car was all about, because, yeah.
I think it looked like somebody had to do another limp home mode while behind the safety car, although I missed it myself. It wasn't on the stream that you're putting onto the YouTube channel, and I was watching the wrong car.
Ah, yeah.
So I missed exactly what prompted that myself. But yeah, somebody on the YouTube channel did comment, is it Santu's mission to hit every bit of the wall? So I think that HSV needs a little bit more tuning help.
Yeah, probably not his intention.
Somebody's asked for a time update from the Delta Wing. He's currently top of the timesheets at the moment with a 1:38.518. But again, he seems to have settled down into a rhythm. All of his sectors are white. And of course, I say that, and he sets his personal best through sector 4 just then, but only by a 10th. So he seems to have settled down into a nice rhythm, which is tricky in the Delta Wing. The Delta Wing is not it's not an easy car to drive, as we saw at Willow Springs with the Mazda Delta Wing. Spent most of its time on the outside of the first and last turns.
As he goes into the pits, presumably to get new tires for the end. Or maybe he's ending his session here. Let's wait and see.
The Delta Wing doesn't actually use tyres all that much.
No, it doesn't. So, yeah, I'm a bit fussed why he went into the pits here.
It looks like on my screen, but it doesn't appear on the stream, but on my screen it looks like he's got some right-hand damage.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Although, obviously, people might not know, but in GT6, when damage appears on your car, if you repair it, it will persist as showing as damaged on the screen while not actually still being damaged. It's a weird little bug. Can't quite work out. So that might be actual damage that he's carrying, or it might be from much, much earlier in the day.
Now looking at current second place on the board, the Lexus TWR.
Yeah, I think that currently has the fastest time of the day with the Portuguese driver EOL, 1:37.150, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the second fastest time that we've seen all weekend, with only an LMP2 yesterday beating it by, well, a couple of hundredths. So that's a good old time. I say we should see on pace the GT 500s and the LMP2 should be pretty close to each other, but I think on the longer runs, the way the LMP2s treat their tyres and the fuel, we should see them winning comfortably. Okay, we have 3 minutes now left of the session, but drivers must be in the pit lane by 8, so you're not allowed to run laps after the session is finished. It's not a case of running to the checkered flag and then pitting after that, but cars must be in the pits by 8 p.m. Sorry, 8 a.m. rather. Niova came pretty close to exceeding track limits at T3 there, but he gave a firm lift and got the car back on track again.
I see here a driver of Russian roulette racing saying that they think that Team Scuderia GTMX and the current team we're looking at, Team Wise Racing, are their biggest rivals in GT500.
Well, yeah, looking at the pace of that Lexus, at least in the hands of EOL, I think we'll be moving from his bronze ranking very, very soon. It's good pace.
Yeah, you may be right, but also the Nissan SSR of Snail Spec Racing is in the mix.
Yeah. Oh, a little spin for the Delta Wing there, leaving the chicane. I think that's probably going to be it for his laps today.
As we see the LMP2 car of P16 closing in.
Well, it looks like we have a spinner in the pit exit.
Who's that? That's
Scotty 8646.
Ah, okay. For
Oh no,
that's the
sorry,
safety car.
it's not. It's the safety car. My apologies. Yeah. Sorry, I saw Pit next to Scotty's name and thought it was him. Safety car is heading to the start line. He's heading to the pit entry to guide drivers in.
Yeah, session about to be over.
Yep. Oh. Greasy 07 catching sight there at the very last second and heading his SLS into the pits there. There's only 10 seconds left in the session now, and there's some drivers still out on track who aren't going to make it back to the pit lane in time for 8. I'm not sure what the provision is in the regulations for that.
Yeah, the regulations have changed a bit, favoring equal driving time between all the blocks. Not that the 4th block has more driving time. That's why the session is the cars in the session are expected to return to pits as soon as the session is over. So 16 Judd of P16 looking to be the last guy to return to pits. Finishing a good 3rd in class, if I'm correct, provisionally on this leaderboard.
Yes, that's yeah. I think that's correct. Okay, the session is over now. It looks like yes, nobody managed to beat that time from EOL of 1:37.15 in the GT500 Lexus SC430. But yeah, it's the second fastest time we've seen so far this week. There's 2 more qualifying sessions to go, so we might see some improvements. See if anybody can get into the 136s. I'm expecting some more pace from some of those LMP2s.
Yeah, I think maybe the 36s are possible with low fuel, but you really have to nail the lap, I think, and get no traffic, of course.
Of course, I'm dawdling around in an MX-5 at 2 minutes 6 for the support race, so I wouldn't know what's possible down at the sharp end.
Well, we've seen the MX-5s on track with the LMP1s at Willow Springs. That was a funny sight.
It was bad enough in a GT Cup car with an Audi R18 gaining on you at 800 million miles an hour.
Yeah, and flashing their lights.
I mean, seriously, they were 20 seconds faster through every corner.
Yeah. Definitely were. Well, guys, thanks for watching this qualifying practice 2. For your commentators, Famin, AJ, and me, I say thank you for watching and see you next session.